Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Lots of reaction to the major CDL announcements that came yesterday, but also what's going on with the third game mode. Control officially gone out of the rotation next year. Hardpoint, Search and Destroy, Overloads. That will be the trio. Is this a good or a bad decision? Some pros pretty excited about it. Karma though isn't so convinced that Overload is good enough to replace Control. That might be relatively stale, but at least you know what you get on the tin. Very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Plenty to get into today. Wanted to start here really because the DreamHack event in Birmingham has sold out not once but twice. So just if you guys didn't see the announcement, the first event of the year is going to be in Dallas, the second event is going to be in Birmingham in the UK, not in Alabama. That's a collaboration like we did in Dallas last year with DreamHack, right? So it's going to be, I think it's at the NEC, which is if you guys went to Insomnia 62 CWL Birmingham, which I did, was my first ever event back in 2018, you'll know how that goes. Back then there was a stage, obviously there were some seating for the main stage, and then there was a Bravo Charlie Delta station with areas to stand, and then there was a big challengers pit. That is the venue that we had before. Plenty of space. Now, DreamHack Dallas, we had an unbelievable amount of space. Like, the COD event had the biggest hall, I think, of any single hall. It was bigger than what Counter-Strike had, pretty sure. It was immense, the amount of room in there. If you guys went to DreamHack Dallas, you'll know what I'm talking about. So, DreamHack Birmingham, also Adam Apicella running the show, they are selling tickets. Now, some people already bought DreamHack tickets in advance, but you needed to like pay the additional add-on or whatever to get the Call of Duty allocation. And only a couple of hours last night after this was confirmed, 60% of the VIP tickets were gone. The Challengers passes to play as a team, they were 25% sold. Fast forward to today, all of the spectator tickets are gone. Now, if you guys have missed the boat on this, don't worry, because hopefully there will be a solution we'll see here in a second. But first of all, I think it's exciting to see how alive the COD scene, the excitement for an event back in the UK after 5 years has been, because, you know, I was kind of worried we're no London team anymore. There's no, like, British team to support, kind of as there used to be. There's still some players to support, obviously, but they're on various different organisations. I wondered kind of what that meant for competitive COD fans in the UK. I'm sure that Paris is going to be great. Of course, Birmingham was also going to be great. The British fans always go hard. But I think the question was, how lively was it going to be? But Adam App is like, hang on a second, we've sold all our tickets in a day, and they did an additional batch of these, and they sold out in 7 minutes. So general admission and VIP are gone. At the time he tweeted this, there were 20 Challengers tickets left if you want to play in the tournament. Now they're all gone as well. So, yeah, it's just pretty crazy. I don't think that... I mean, Adam Apicella also did another tweet that said, I don't know why I'm surprised, because the last event that we did in the UK, the beer was sold out at noon, right? If you guys were at CWL London 2019, I think that's the one that he's talking about anyway. Yeah, because I don't think he was involved in the one that started off the CDL. Whatever it is, whichever one he meant, the venue was run dry by early afternoon, if not midday, by the fans in attendance. That was the case pretty much the entire weekend. So it maybe should have been expected, but also it's one part of a massive event, right? There's a big DreamHack event going on. They have loads of halls. You know, there will have been an allocation to say, all right, the CDL gets this. Now, of course, as I say, in Dallas, I mean, it's Texas, right? They've got so much space. In the UK, the NEC is a relatively big venue, but it's not what we had over in Dallas. So Adam Up is going to try and get more space. Basically have another venue or open an additional room or something. Combine a couple of the areas, maybe because they have those big curtains they pull down sometimes. So that's what Adam App says. And he's like, look, DreamHack gets you into the CDL area, just no guaranteed seating. So they have a certain amount of seats that they were trying to sell. They've sold them all immediately. And when they did another batch, they've sold them again. So if you've got a DreamHack ticket, you can still come to the CDL. I think that's the point. It's like, it's not the end of the world. You'll still be able to walk into the area. But I think the point is that it's probably going to be busier than they expected, and as a result, they're looking to see if they can change rooms and open up more guaranteed seating spots, right? So it'd be nice to see that happen. There's certainly some good news and some bad news in there, but let's talk about some of the drama that's going on elsewhere. I'll get back to this Karma situation, actually. I did want to go through this. So Don, he's back in business, right? Temp, we know that his career came to an end after a couple of years on the Legion, then going into the upcoming season. There was a theory that that Don had an offer, but he didn't really want to take it. But I'm not really sure that was the case. He went down to challenges, didn't really go to plan. And, you know, of course, he's been away from competing for a little while, done a bit of coaching here and there, played a bit of college COD. The BO7 is tempting. Look, there is no doubt Don can still shoot straight. Temp is one of the more talented players that we have had in the CDL in terms of like raw gunny, in my opinion. I mean, look, it's a Lion Man card, but he had a 90-odd Lion Man card or whatever in that final season, didn't get picked up again. So, look, he's another one of these players looking to come back. It's going to be very competitive, I'm sure, but I'm excited to see what Don can get up to, right? He does clarify and says, look, I'm not trolling. I want to play at least the first events out in Dallas, play the Open. It's a 20-minute drive. I'm still good enough to be pro, and if I'm terrible, which is impossible after 2 months of grinding the new game, then I'll chalk it up for good. Also worth noting, Don was pretty nasty at some of the jetpack more advanced movement games as well. Notable for his play in Black Ops 4, I think especially in that Splice team that season, kind of a pseudo jetpack game. So I'm excited to see what Don gets up to. Who's he going to play with in challenges? That is actually a very interesting question, because do you want to play, if you're Don, let's put yourself in Temp's shoes, do you want to come back and play with, you know, the same old boys, right? Let's say some of the other former CDL pros trying to make it back. Your Priesters, your RCTs, Standard, you know, these type of players. Maybe there's some value there, but also do you want to take a risk, right? Go and team with one of the Halo kids who's making the transition. Maybe get noticed that way, right? Something at least to think about on that front. Neptune, though, is excited for the year, excited for the game. We know that they did that big announcement yesterday. There was lots of reaction to it. Simp, Shotzzy. This was another one from Neptune's like, yeah, this year is going to be crazy. But let's talk about this third game mode, right? Because over all the years of competitive Call of Duty, Search and Destroy has been there on 18 of those years. So always we're playing Search and Destroy. There have been 7 times we played Capture the Flag, 13 now Hardpoint, all the way since, of course, Black Ops 2 when it was first introduced. Plenty of competitive COD season. I mean, it feels, damn, Black Ops 2 was like 13 years ago. It's kind of scary. And even in Ghost, we didn't even have Hardpoint, right? So Hardpoint is confirmed to come back. This is including Black Ops 7. Capture the Flag 7. Now, worth noting briefly that in years such as Black Ops 3, there was actually 4 game modes. It was Hardpoint, Search, Uplink, Capture the Flag, and then another Search and Destroy. So that was kind of interesting. Occasionally played a bit of Domination, unfortunately. Played a bit of Sabotage, bit of Demolition, Blitz from Ghosts, and now Overload as another mode. So we've got some staples here. They could have brought these back. Control got up to 6 years in a row, and well, these are the specific games, right, when Search and Destroy was played every year. CTF was a little bit all over the place, and well, Overload is getting introduced in Black Ops 7. So if you're not familiar with Overload, they might end up changing the game mode quite a bit from the beta version to make it play better for competitive COD. But worth just talking about briefly again. So there's a device you've got to pick up on the map. It's kind of like Uplink in that sense. Middle of the map, you go and pick up the device. It spawns in, you go and grab the thing. You got to take it to the enemy team space. Then it kind of becomes like Blitz. You've got 2 different portals, though, instead of just one. If you carry the thing into the portal, you score a point, right? You don't teleport back anywhere, you score a point. Now, there have been some questions. Should the guy carrying it be able to still shoot? Certainly, should he, should there be a radar ping? That was a big discussion. Is it going to be offensive or defensive heavy? Because some would argue 2 points is too much, but if you make it just 1 point, surely it's got to make it pretty easy for the defense to just camp very hard, right? Because with Blitz, if you ran into the portal, you would then score a point and teleport back to your own spawn. There was still value, even though you knew someone was coming to your base, there was still value to go to theirs instead because you could keep scoring. Whereas if you know the enemy's picked up the jammer, you cannot score. So the only thing you can do is defend, at which point 1 portal is probably too, it'd be too boring. Everyone would just camp on Hades probably. So 2 portals I'm happy with. I think there are some debates, especially if we had a respawn delay, as to whether it could be too easy for the attackers, right? Because the defense, once they die, they're off spawn, it's basically cooked for them. Something to think about. You don't want it to be too easy for either side. I think you want it to be a balanced game mode. Look, it's something different to Control. I think what I like about it is that there's some like other form of objective, right? I think Control had its benefits because it was effectively a hybrid of, in some ways, a hybrid of Hardpoint and Search and Destroy. There's lives at play, there's zones to capture. But I think one of the reasons it made it quite stale is like, there's lives that play in their zones to capture, right? Lives are at play in search, zones to capture in hardpoint. It's very same old, and I think that's why capture the flag or some other game mode where there's a different type of objective just adds a little bit more spice, because there's something else going on, right? It's only one time a series you see someone trying to pick up a flag. Whereas in Control, I've seen someone trying to capture a point a million times already this series, right? So I think Control was fine. In Black Ops 4, it was especially good because of the specialists. It was designed pretty well for that game and those maps. Recent games, not quite been the same. We know there's been a push for some time to get rid of Control. TJ says, thank God for no Control. Game mode was terrible for years. Now, not everyone agrees. Octane says Control is gone. He's pretty happy about it. Envoy, though, not so happy about it. Good Control player, enjoyed playing Control for many a year. He's not so happy that it's gone. Now, interestingly enough, I don't think Dashy minds, we'll see that in a second, but Dashy holds a pretty remarkable record. The first ever pro event with Control was Vegas 2018, well, 2019 technically, but it was in 2018 that he won. The final ever event to feature Control, unless they go back to it at some point, EWC 2025. Dashy won both, so pretty remarkable statistic in there. There are changes coming to it. Matt Squant says that, disabling the radar pulse for the device carrier, including some other changes. So there are probably a few tweaks that need making, but we know that Traixx will deliver on that front. So that's why I'm excited to see this new game mode in play. It's something different. Is it going to be better than some of the other game modes we've had? Not so sure, but that's the question that Karma raises as well. Wasn't a fan of Control, but I'm not too sure about Overload. He puts it in the quotations to be like, wow, this is an interesting sounding game mode to say for sure. Now, he was talking about some of the other ideas, one flag CTF and stuff like this, whether they could bring something similar back. There should be a way to drop the device. As someone who's literally never played it, I know you've seen people play pubs, don't really know, but dropping the device definitely should be a thing if it isn't. One zone would make it one flag CTF, which defeats the purpose, right? So, yeah, I think it should be 2 zones. I think they might have to balance it in a couple of ways. The idea of dropping the device, or, like in Uplink, you had to escort your ball carrier because he couldn't shoot. So there probably are some ways that they should think about balancing this. We'll see what happens when the game mode launches and who gets on top of it early. As Dashy says, I know my boy Envoy, Control all-time GOAT, is feeling some type of way right now. Envoy's like, who made these calls? We had our time, he says. So Dashy doesn't seem too mad about it, but Envoy maybe not especially happy that Control is out the door. So very much into your thoughts in the comments. Just one final thing to mention, thought was pretty interesting. Combined roster series win-loss records. Now, what you will find here when you look through these numbers is that they are positive in general. If you add all these up, you'll find it to be, they average out as in the positive. Most teams, their players have won more series than they have lost. That is expected, because if you've lost more series than you've won, you're probably getting kicked out of the league, right? So there's kind of a survivorship bias here, where if you win more series than you lose, you're probably on a good team, you're probably a good player, you're probably going to stay around in the league. So if you look down the league, out of it's actually only 7 of the 12 teams have a positive record. LA Thieves have the most positive, interestingly enough. OpTic have the second most positive, then FaZe, then the Falcons, maybe carried by Celium or whatever you want to say, then the rumored Gentlemates team, then Toronto. So pretty interesting, because it's not that dissimilar to the theoretical top 6 maybe. The only question is about ReeaL when it comes to a team like Heretics. So I think many would say that Heretics should absolutely be in the conversation next season. So this isn't a power ranking, but it's kind of interesting to compare and contrast what that could potentially look like. Of course, for Ravens, a lot of those guys haven't played too many series, so that's carried a lot by Slasher. Vancouver Surge, their brand new team, shows the level of risk they're taking when their, losses and wins combines are barely equal to the numbers of Heretics, who have only played pretty much a single season. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.